What is that? Is that a stick? You can't be serious! What are you gonna do? Play fetch with me like a little dog? You're making this way too easy! Send someone with a real weapon!
You may be big and strong, but there are things more powerful in this world than you.
Who is that kid? Who is that kid?
That have attended Sunday school all your life, like I have, you recognize the previous cartoon as a take of the oldest literary reference we have to the use of the sling. Sling has been used throughout history. It's one of the oldest man-made weapons, going back all the way to the Paleolithic era. It's been used in all parts of the world except for Australia, where it never caught on. Australians preferred the spear. Now, the traditional sling that you just saw was what's commonly called a shepherd's sling. Now, this is one that I have made. This is partially accurate, partially inaccurate. I will explain the parts and inaccuracies and inaccuracies. First off, the material for the rope was usually hemp or twine or wool, some type of organic material that would not stretch. Wool was kind of expensive, but it was good. It was easy on the hands. Hemp was cheap, as anybody knows. It's made out of grass fiber. This is why it was known as a shepherd's sling, because the shepherds sitting around watching their flocks didn't have a lot to do at the time, so they would sit around making slings, practicing slings, defending themselves with slings. They were good against hyenas, jackals, even some references that against lions and such. Of course, I would hate to be the one to have to go up against a lion with just this. As I said, the cordage was made out of twine. The cradle, which holds the whatever you're slinging, whatever ammunition you're using, to use this for example, the cradle would either be woven material, again, woven from hemp or wool, whatever material they had, or it could be a piece of cloth that they might have, or a piece of leather. This is in the same vein. I used whatever I had laying around, a piece of old blue jean. Technically, that is cotton-based cloth, even though denim technically is a rather modern invention. Parts of the sling. One side would have a loop that would go either around your middle finger, insert a joke there, or the thumb. The other part would either be a collection of knots or a piece of some material, whatever I used. I had a couple of beads laying around, so I used that. The idea is that as you sling it, when you release one side, and without the loop that stayed around your thumb would stay in place.
Longer range, gunfire would not have been enough to tip the balance in favor of the Spaniards, because the Indians had a deadly countermeasure: the sling.
Clearly lethal if you're unarmored.
Yeah.
Now, note on ammunition. Obviously, the first ammunition, most common, was regular old pebbles, usually ones gotten out of rivers since they were nice and smooth. They would be used all the way from 2 ounces to big 1 pound balls as big as your stones as big as your fist. Later on, as as slingers were being used in warfare, yes, they actually had entire battalions of slingers. Matter of fact, the benefits, they said that sling stones had a better range than bows and arrows. That's the reason a lot of slingers, professional slingers, could expect to make more money than an archer in the old days, especially like the Persian Empire, Egyptians, stuff like that. And yes, slings were used extensively by the Egyptians. Matter of fact, once there was a sling found in the tomb of King Tutankhamun. Ironically, we have a lot of archaeological evidence of ammunition that slingers would use, but not too many slings. Obviously, this was because, as I said, the slings themselves are made out of biodegradable material. Also, the fact that slings were considered more of a commoner's weapon. They weren't really associated with the elite upper crust. As I was saying, the ammunition, as they became more, as you begin to see professional slingers, it became more important for accuracy and precision, that the ammunition became more stable and more precise. So they started using clay balls hardened in fire. As I said, that had the advantage that they could make all of the ammunition the same size, weight. That aided in accuracy and precision. Also had the benefit that they could heat those in fire right before they toss them. And if they got caught in any thatch roofs or something, it had a tendency to start fires. So if that's being used as a siege engine, that's a bonus. Later on, the Greeks and the Romans started using lead ammunition. Size and shape varied tremendously. They used everything from just regular, what we would think of as sling ammunition, or traditional little round balls, to ones shaped like acorns, to the most common, most preferred, I should say, were ones shaped like, well, we would look at them and say, well, those are little flat footballs. Decorations on them, like I said, as they got to that range of precision, and started doing that. The professional slinger would carve little designs in their ammunition occasionally. These could be everything from just their name to the name of their military company or their company commander. Could also be symbols like lightning bolts or scorpions or serpents, meaning to indicate silent death. The more sarcastic ones, the ones with a bit of a sense of humor, would carve everything from catch this, ouch, there's even one reference to one was found for Pompey's backside. Enjoy that one.
Catch this.
As I say, historically, they were in. There were numerous references in historical literature, everything from Homer and several Greek authors talked about them. Talked about how some of the Greek armies were barraged by Persian armies using companies of slingers. Later on, as I said, they were used as aid in siege. Mostly what this would not be used what they would use in sling in a siege. Most of the time, what they would use, obviously they would be catapults. But if they needed something a little smaller, they would use what was called a staff sling. Now this is even referenced in there's recordings that the Vikings used staff slings when they laid siege to laid siege to Paris. Now, what the staff sling would be like would be, imagine this as a 2-meter long pole. Now, you would take one end of it and you would secure one end of the sling. So that's the secured sling. And then one side would just be looped on the end so that it could slide off. The idea there are modern references to the sling, even up to being used even up to today. There are references that it was used during World War II against the Nazis. There's also, I have a video clip here. That was a video clip of the Civil War, Spanish Civil War in the 1920s. As you can see, he was using a sling quite effectively. He was not slinging stones or lead bullets. He was actually slinging grenades. The sling is actually still being used, and right now, not only from the less more remote people like the Bedouins, the people who still practice with the old weapons and such. But people who just can't afford big fancy weapons, they will take a sling and they will take a Molotov cocktail. Quite effective against for an insurgent against a police force. Take a Molotov cocktail, stand a couple hundred yards away, sling it right onto the police force. Very, very, very nasty. Well, that's some reference. That's just a part of the history of the sling. Like I said, any weapon or any item that has been along with the sling, there's going to be, trust me, there's going to be a lot more. So if you're interested, there's plenty of references to look up. There's several books on history of slings. There's numerous myths and legends about characters who use them. There's tapestries referencing their use if you're interested in that. So I hope you enjoyed what I had to say, and have a blessed one.